So I was thinking, during the Mass Effect Trilogy, Shepard recruits some galaxy-defining crewmates, all devastating on the battlefield in their own right. But if we were to pit them against each other to the death in a Hunger Game type setting, who would come out on top? As a Mass Effect expert, this question had me deep in thought for many days, and ultimately, I decided in order to play this out, we need to set some ground rules. We can't just throw them all into a ring and
let them fight.
It would be too chaotic, and there are arguments for just about anyone winning, except Jacob. We also have to draw a line in the sand when it comes to lore and gameplay, especially biotics. If we take into account the extended lore, biotics are just far too powerful. Inversely, if we only take into account gameplay, then biotics like Samara during Mass Effect 2 would have no chance against Wrex, who would have shields, barriers, and armor to get through before her biotics would have an effect. Also, the gameplay differs between games, where armor stops biotics completely in 2, but does nothing to stop it in 1, and only slightly stops it in 3. And then we have cinematics, where in some scenes, characters don't even use shields or barriers, like when Ash shoots Wrex. Let's just assume some of the lore and cinematics are a bit like Pokédex entries, with the writers embellishing things for effect.
Not today, friend.
So, there are 4 things we need to establish: squad mates' power levels, the environment the battle will take place, the intelligence and information the squads have, and finally, rules around hiding. First, power levels. We're going to take what we know about the abilities of each character and do our best to interpret how it would actually translate in this unique situation, taking into account both lore and gameplay from all 3 games. For example, most people poop all over the combat focuses, but combat trained individuals have higher reflexes and implants to metaphorically slow down time around them. This is mentioned in the lore and shown with the adrenaline rush power. Power levels are the most opinion-based and potentially divisive ruling, so bear with it as there's no solid answer. Second, the environment. Our squad mates will be dropped into different areas of a large arena, similar to the Hunger Games, with all kinds of biomes. This gives every type of squad mate a chance, from those good up close, to those good at a distance, to those who use their minds. Third, the intelligence. To avoid some characters having extreme tactical advantages, like Kasumi or Garrus, all squad mates will be aware of their opponents and their abilities. We have to assume they all know what they're up against. Fourth, all squad mates must try to eliminate opponents. Let's just pretend there's some universe at stake reason. Without this one, we would argue that Kasumi or even Thane could just sit out the battle until the end, then take a favorable 1 versus 1 situation. When it comes to camping though, without the ability to do so, some squad mates would lose effectiveness, so it will be allowed as long as they're still trying to eliminate opponents. Now, final caveat, I won't be including temporary squad mates like Nyreen or Arya, nor will I cover Mordin. Before we start, I want you to all put in the comments who you think will win and why. Don't skip to the end, I'll know if you cheated. I'm watching you. Any answer will put you into the running to win this sweet Mass Effect Legendary cash. Also, my goal is to get to 250,000 subscribers, and a lot of you that watch my content aren't yet subscribed.
So that's how it's gonna be.
So if you haven't, you should know that doing so gives you that Garrus energy. So in no particular order, first up is Jacob Taylor. Alright, what can I say about Jacob that hasn't already been said about herpes? I'm trying to put all of the hate he gets out of my mind to rate him impartially, but I really can't promise anything. The simple truth is Jacob just isn't that powerful of a warrior. You're forced to have him tag along during events of Mass Effect 2 as the elusive man sees him as an honest soldier that will humanize Cerberus, but he just isn't that impressive and you wouldn't bring him along otherwise. He's a vanguard, as in he's part biotic, part combat, but lacks the raw power of Wrex or the incredible skills of Thane and Javik, the other part biotic, part combat squad mates. His combat skills are arguably one of the lowest out of the combat able, and his biotic skills, including barriers, are the lowest out of the biotically able. One such example of this is during the mission to rescue him and the scientists on Garrus. He gets shot and wounded while under fire by a handful of basic Cerberus troops. Anyone else on this list would have easily mopped the floor with similar enemies on their own. Hell, Garrus held out against 3 merc groups solo with just a rifle. I know we're trying to take the cinematic with a grain of salt, but the salt flows like the Amazon River here. So, how would the fight go for Jacob Taylor? Jacob is a capable soldier, and against the rank and file he would stand out, but spoiler, he wouldn't fare well against the galaxy's best. He has biotics, but most of your squad mates have faced more powerful ones, including Asari commandos, and lived. He doesn't possess any outstanding tactical abilities either. Jacob would be one of the first ones killed, and I don't see him being able to beat anyone on this list in a straight up fight. The ones he might be able to beat one-on-one, and I underline might a few hundred times, like Edie or Mordin, are so incredibly intelligent, and in Mordin's case, STG trained, that it's highly unlikely that they would be caught by surprise. So do Jacob a kindness and grant him his wish by sending him into the vents during the suicide mission.
Jacob, you volunteered, so you're up.
You got it, Commander.
The final verdict, Jacob would definitely be killed in action. Kaidan is surprisingly the only Sentinel companion in the game besides Miranda. This is both a blessing and a curse. You see, he has access to throw, lift, barriers, stasis, overload, sabotage, neural shock, or even more, but he functions like a jack of all trades, never quite being as strong with biotics as, say, Jack or Samara, or being as savvy with tech as Tali or Mordin. He's also not as skilled in combat as a character with that speciality, like Garrus, Grunt, Zaeed, James, Ashley, or Wrex, but he does get to use an assault rifle. In Mass Effect 3, he gets accepted into the Spectres, and this does show his talents, but this is a battle against the other best in the galaxy individuals, and that gesture is mostly symbolic, a result of working so close with Shepard, and arguably a stunt by Udina. Even through his self-emission, his implants peak high, but not as high as Shepard's.
It's rough sometimes, but they spike higher than a lot of L3s. Except for you, of course.
I see him biotically on the same level or below Miranda's, but clearly above Jacob's, and both of them couldn't maintain the barrier during the suicide mission. So how would the fight go for Kaidan Alenko? In a straight up fight against soldiers in the open, his barriers and shields would allow him to take more hits, Reeve would boost that, and his biotics and tech abilities would allow him to strip away opponents' defenses. I feel he could beat Ashley in more situations than not, who would be blown away by his tech or biotics, or even Mordin or Kasumi, who lack the tools or heavier weapons to strip away his barriers fast enough. However, it's close to impossible that they'd be caught by surprise. Now, he has the tools to hack doors and hide, and as an Alliance-trained soldier, he has decent battlefield experience. However, against the overwhelming biotic power of Liara, Samara, or Jack, Kaidan simply would not survive. He would need to employ some ambush tactics or traps. However, Kaidan isn't the sharpest of the companions, and someone like Garrus or Kasumi would easily out-infiltrate him, while Wrex would be able to outlast and gun him down. The final verdict is Kaidan will be killed in action. What can I say about Wrex? He's a standout Krogan, even among his people. Before Grunt, Wrex was the last to beat a Thresher Maw on foot during his trial, and Grunt did it with Shepard, the arguably greatest warrior in the galaxy. Wrex did it as essentially a child. He's now close to a century old and brings that experience with him. Krogan are natural tanks, having multiple redundant organs and freakish regeneration. On top of that, having incredible physical strength. Wrex also has the benefit of relatively high intelligence for a Krogan, showing on multiple occasions he has high extra and intrapersonal intelligence. Beyond being a crack shot, able to fire from the hip and hit his targets with ease, he's a biotic. Yes, a biotic Krogan, something that would bring fear to any enemy. He has barriers to supplement his already crazy high survivability, as well as heavy armor and shields. He can also use warp to punch through barriers and armor, and throw to ragdoll the rest. He also carries around stimulant packs to boost his shields and damage. I don't see many getting through his defenses quickly enough in a straight up fight, or being able to survive a blast from a Krogan shotgun or his heavy assault rifles. So how would the fight go for Wrex? Out of all the companions on this list, Wrex is the most deadly in close quarters. He would win one-on-one against anyone if allowed to get within melee range, even though it would be close against Grunt. The inverse isn't true though, as someone like Garrus or Legion would have the upper hand at extreme range. Wrex isn't an idiot though, and would be aware of that possibility, especially since he'd be given that intelligence beforehand. Someone like Kasumi would be able to effectively exploit his blind spots and strike first, but if Wrex is on guard, this would just end with Kasumi being blown away. There is no indication that her Shadow Strike could take down both his barriers and shields, and he could easily just use his biotics to take hold of her, then he could ravage her in any way he wanted to. Now to address the elephant in the room, the scene where Wrex gets gunned down by Ashley's pistol if you make what I consider to be the wrong choices in Mass Effect 1. It's been highly discussed, so check out Reddit or many other forums. I've also talked to those at Bioware, and the conclusion is that it was a case of plot anti-armor. In many other situations and in all the texts, that kind of thing would have been impossible. So I'm going to put it out of my mind. I think the only way Wrex could lose is if he came up against a crack shot with a Black Widow at range or was outplayed. If someone like ED spaced or flooded the room he was using with her hacking abilities, but we can't account for those variables. Another possibility is fighting against a powerful biotic like Samara, but keep in mind Wrex fought Aria before to a standstill, so it's not like he hasn't the experience against those that can crush tanks with their mind. The final verdict is, we'll need to circle back to this later. Mordin Solus is a brilliant Salarian scientist, tech expert, decent singer, and one of my favorites. He was formerly part of the Salarian Special Tactics Group, which were essentially commandos. As a Salarian goes, he's quite old and quite wise. Like all members of his race, he requires very little sleep, and his reaction speed is naturally faster than those of other races. However, physically, he's quite a bit more frail. Also, Mordin isn't much of a soldier. In fact, during the suicide mission, he's one of the most likely to die. And if given any task to lead or hold the line, he will fail.
We just hold the line. Personally prefer to get job done and go home.
This means he wouldn't fare well in a fight not on his own terms. He does bring the strongest incinerate tech to the field, meaning he's capable of burning everything down. Notably though, he can melt armor and stop Krogan regeneration with it, and therefore is quite an effective counter to Grunt. A bit of poetic irony there.
Explosives useful. Burn through Krogan armor.
He's also been shown to employ Overload, even though he doesn't have it as a skill during gameplay. He can also use Neural Shock and Cryoblast, a mix of fire and ice, as well as his intelligence, knowledge of biology, and hacking abilities. These would all make him a very effective guerrilla fighter. Therefore, it's unlikely that he would be caught off guard or fight a more capable warrior under their own terms. Given enough time, like Batman, he could come up with an effective solution for every warrior on the field. So how would the fight go for Mordin Solus? This is one of the more difficult ones to analyze. If caught off guard, Mordin would be one of the simplest squad mates to kill, besides maybe Tali. He lacks any notable defenses or ways to escape. However, if he's allowed to plan, it could be quite deadly. I'm gonna have to say that under the circumstances, he's not given the opportunity to plan against every companion on the list, even though it breaks my heart and even though he's given the intel beforehand. It would just not be fair. During the Collector attacks, he quickly came up with effective countermeasures for the Seeker swarms, so it's likely he could come up with tactics or solutions biologically for the others. Even so, it's doubtful he could break past the defenses of any strong biotic or Wrex, as he lacks the tools. He doesn't have a concussive shot or warp, and he would only need to step out at the wrong time and would easily be dispatched by Garrus, Zaeed, Ashley, Thane, or even Legion.
Thought I was harmless, did you?
Not to mention that Kasumi could probably take him out with one shot, unless he develops effective countermeasures. The fight against Tali, your other pure tech squad mate, would be interesting, but it's likely he would simply outmatch her in both tactics and firepower. The final verdict, sadly, is that Mordin will be killed in action. Now, I've spoken quite a bit about other squad mates, but Tali Zaraya Vast Normandy is going to be an exception here. Spoiler, I never see a situation where she survives. I'm sorry, Tali fans, I felt I needed to rip that band-aid off fast, so this was the best option. Yes, she has engineering skills, but so do many of the other squad mates. One nick from a stray shrapnel or bullet and she's toast.
Anytime you get a suit puncture, it's a matter of luck.
She's intelligent, but so is Legion, Edie, Mordin. She's young and she hasn't had the combat training of the others, and she's just very vulnerable. She does use shotguns, but melee is the last place she wants to be. She does use drones, but those are fodder for any companion on this list.
Watch for fire! Combat drone, lockdown!
Yes! Easy enough.
She has no protection against any of them besides perhaps talking them down and trying to be cute. She's a great support, so she can offer aid to other squad mates, or maybe even briefly hack a Legion for help, but this is a battle to the death. Let's not overanalyze this one. The final verdict is, Tali will be killed in action. Ashley Williams starts out as a high-ranked Marine when you meet her and a lone survivor of the squad stationed at Eden Prime. She only gets better under Shepard's wing, eventually getting promoted to Spectre status in Mass Effect 3. She's a hardened Alliance soldier with heavy armor and heavy weapons. She doesn't have any notable tech skills, only able to fix basic machinery or arm bombs when ordered, nor does she have any biotics. Notably, in a cutscene in Mass Effect 1, she can shoot and kill Wrex, but I'm striking that off the record, as you can shoot and kill her pretty easy in Mass Effect 3 if she doesn't believe you're not with Cerberus, and she's a Spectre at that moment. Protection-like shields vanish somehow in cutscenes but reappear in others like Mass Effect 1 when Simon shoots you during the Bringing Down the Sky DLC. All we can really establish is that she's a great shot with reaction speed to boot. So how would the fight go for Ashley? This one's pretty cut and dry. She's a soldier against relative gods. Even Zaeed and Grunt, who are both pure combat focused, outmatch Ash. Zaeed has the extreme combat experience and has lived the survival life. And Grunt has the tank experience and he's a perfect Krogan. Ashley would simply not be able to deal with the triple protection of Wrex or the overwhelming offense of someone like Jack. Kasumi would outplay Ash, and it's doubtful the intelligent characters like Mordin wouldn't as well. She's a great shot and wields a sniper, but Garrus and Legion would outclass her here as well. The final verdict is that Jacob will be killed in action. Also Ashley. Garrus is your best friend, protege, and even potential lover during the events of all 3 games. You see him grow from a rash C-Sec agent and Spectre potential, all the way to badass sniper rogue called Archangel. He single-handedly held the line against 3 dangerous merc groups intent on killing him. He held out so long that they were forced to hire freelancers to act as fodder. If you build him a particular way in Mass Effect 3, he becomes more deadly than Shepard in combat, but we won't consider this, even though it's actually pretty damn broken. He's a master with any rifle, assault and sniper, and by using armor-piercing rounds, armor means nothing to him. Using tech, he can also bring down shields. He's a brilliant leader, a skill which is only stifled as he's working under the greatest of all time. He's also a tactical genius, shown in too many to count dialogue moments where he rapidly assesses the situation and comes up with a solution.
We're taking too much fire. If we head to the left, we can flank them.
So how would the fight go for Garrus Vakarian? Given that he doesn't die before he's able to get cover, he's in with a fighting chance. There isn't a single squad mate on this list that can beat him at range, besides maybe Legion, but Garrus has been shown to be able to outmatch Legion when it comes to guns, as shown in the scene where he out-calibrates him.
Data indicates the calibration of Normandy's weapon accuracy can be improved by 0.32%.
That's all. You can't squeeze 0.34% out.
Negative. That threshold is not possible.
You sure? Take a look now.
Scanning. Normandy's weapon systems have been improved by a margin of 0.43%. How did you accomplish this?
A little secret we organics like to keep. Always hold some back for emergencies.
Now I know that's a stretch, but it shows that Geth aren't quite the infallible levels of perfection yet. Maybe potential Mass Effect 4 storyline, question mark? Garrus is also able to overload Legion and with armor-piercing rounds, shoot through cover. That can't be overstated. So Garrus is a hard one to analyze because it's highly dependent on the location. Garrus could take out even the Krogan, as the Black Widow at range is enough to pierce through all defenses, and no doubt he could outplay a lot of the squad mates on this list. The question is, can he survive the biotic opponents, and would he see and plan for the potential ambush of Kasumi? Garrus would likely pick a kill zone and hunker down. Shown in the Citadel DLC to be able to plan elaborate traps, and no doubt given the ability, he'd be able to move to different locations when discovered, baiting enemies into a cat and mouse situation where he would have the range advantage. The final verdict is, we're gonna need to circle back to this.
I think that Korean they've got is Archangel. How the hell are we gonna kill him?
You're not.
Grunt is young, shown by his unfused headplate. However, he was made in the lab to be a perfect Krogan. While grown in the tank, he was fed information on battles, tactics, weapons, and more, so he carries a data bank of information Warlord Okia thought would serve him. Like all Krogan, he's a natural physical tank. You take out an organ, he has more. You shoot him in the arm, he regenerates. Garrus, when speaking about the Blood Pack leader, called him a freak of nature for regenerating so fast, so we can assume Grunt, a perfect Krogan, would have the same or better levels of regeneration.
I've never seen a Krogan regen that fast. He's a freak of nature.
Making him nigh impossible to kill without high precision from a powerful weapon or extreme levels of heat. He also wields a Krogan heavy shotgun which could break a human's arm with its recoil, as well as heavy Krogan armor and shields. As seen in the Mass Effect 2 cinematic, those shields are effective even against collector weapons. He has concussive rounds for shields, incendiary ammo for armor, and fortification for more tankability. So, how would the fight go for Grunt? With all his natural skill and tank-taught combat experience, Grunt is still a child and therefore could be outplayed by a number of squad mates on this list. Kasumi, Garrus, Mordin, Thane, Zaeed, and more. What it would kind of come down to is his sheer determination to live. As shown in the Mass Effect 3 mission, he can survive an army of Rachni who, for all intents and purposes, can one-shot most squad mates. It would be hard to get through his defenses and close to impossible to beat him in melee range, but unlike Wrex, he would be easier to avoid. He doesn't have tech or biotic skills, and a lack of barrier means it's easier to use those against him. Mordin, for one, can incinerate Grunt for what would be an almost guaranteed kill, granted his ambush could take down his shields. Thane would also have an easier time against Grunt than Wrex, Kasumi as well, not to mention powerhouses like Jack and Samara who could throw a car at Grunt or crush him in a singularity. Grunt doesn't have a lot of finesse, and that would cost him as well. No doubt he would survive a free-for-all situation over someone less tanky, but it's unlikely he would be the last one standing. The final verdict, Grunt is killed in action. Kasumi Grotto is a master thief and as such, develops skills to go about her business undetected. She can break into almost anything. She's also an expert observer, often providing you insight about the crew when you talk to her. In fact, her only psychological flaw, a crippling one, is that she has a crush on Jacob.
Disgusting.
The final result is she's killed in action. But seriously, Kasumi's most notable ability is her cloak. She's able to walk even among the highly trained without being detected. In a battle to the death, this can be a game-winning ability. She can also overload shields and throw flashbang grenades to get away or to strike without retaliation. So, how would the fight go for Kasumi? This is the single most difficult crewmate to analyze, all because of her stealth. In the fight to the death, being invisible gives you a huge edge. She could essentially hide until it's just her and one other left, spring a trap and win. Hence why I had to institute Rule 4. It would all come down to if the other crewmates see her as a threat and understand her abilities and can counter it. I see Edie, Thane, Tali, Garrus, Legion, and even Mordin capable of this. Edie especially would analyze Kasumi as a threat and would try to employ countermeasures. Thane, as a master assassin, would be hyper aware of his surroundings. Legion, as a Geth, may be able to detect Kasumi as light spectrum vision isn't the only way Geth observe their surroundings. In which case, does Kasumi get killed? Potentially. It's shown in the suicide mission that she shares an extremely high chance of getting killed with Mordin, as well as not being particularly good in combat situations. So it's clear that if she's seen and if she loses the element of surprise, she would be killed by almost every other squad mate on this list. And this hurts to say, yes, even Jacob. Especially Jacob, since she's shown to be easily whipped by trash men. She doesn't have the defenses to stand up to heavy weapons or biotics. During her loyalty mission, however, she shows extreme athleticism, able to climb and jump her way onto a moving gunship. Maybe she makes it to the end, but I'm not so sure she can actually kill anyone that could make it to the end if they're aware she remains. It's shown in gameplay that her Shadow Strike, even on normal difficulty, cannot one-shot most enemies. Someone like Wrex could turn around and take her out before she can escape. So as far as how she would fare, I think she would be the bane of many squad mates, but ultimately, the final verdict is she will be killed in action. Jack is the most powerful biotic warrior humanity has ever seen, also known as Subject Zero, whose power was born after extreme experimentation by Cerberus when Jack was just a child.
Experimenting on humans? That kind of crap is what makes Cerberus start to seem like a good idea.
Never used humans myself. Disgusting. Disgusting.
She was conditioned to kill, being injected with narcotics when she did so. And as such, she doesn't hesitate and she does what it takes to survive. This gives her an extreme advantage in a battle to the death. Unlike some of the other biotics on this list, Jack excels up close, wielding a shotgun as well as preferring to biotically enhance her punches and send out shockwaves. She doesn't rely on armor, instead uses powerful barriers for protection. Kaidan was equipped with L2s and Shepard with L3s as a Mass Effect 1. Well, Jack has L5s. Biotically, she's one of the most powerful on this list, but lacks weapon or basic tactic training. She does, however, biotically enhance her ammo to be effective against any defenses. So how would the fight go for Jack? There are very few who could stand up to Jack conventionally. As shown by her recruitment mission, she can rampage through a facility designed to lock down the most deadly people in the galaxy without even trying. She can knock around and destroy an Atlas mech solo and maintain a powerful barrier enough to protect your squad during the suicide mission. However, she does get captured twice, once by the Blue Suns where she's caged on the Purgatory, and a second time by Cerberus if you don't help her in Mass Effect 3 at Grissom Academy. So she's not all powerful. A talented assassin or an intelligent operative could set a trap and ambush her in a way she couldn't defend against. A concussive shot to take down her barriers followed up by heavy fire from someone like Zaeed or James could take her out, as well as a long-range sniper. She's not so good at a distance. Though these are fairy tale situations in most cases, Jack would just simply crush him. Jack would defeat most other biotic characters except for Samara. Yes, Samara the Asari Justicar has far more combat experience and is seemingly more powerful biotically as well. So between her fighting style and her lack of finesse, I see Jack painting a huge target on her back. Breaking through walls and rampaging wouldn't work for long. So, the final verdict is, Jack is killed in action. Samara, like Wrex, is nearly a century old and extremely skilled because of it. She's an Asari Justicar, an order dedicated to justice and fighting evil, basically paladins of space. The order often has to fight extremely powerful groups or biotic users alone, so Justicars are often respected and feared. Samara's abilities reflect that. She's talented with weapons, even using assault rifles as an adept, but her real strength is her biotic abilities. Out of everyone on this list, they are arguably the most powerful, able to fling things and people around like dolls, generate powerful barriers and reave defenses away to supplement hers. She's hunted specters before and only failed to capture Nihilus because of her code forcing her to save innocents instead of chasing him. She's arguably more powerful than Arya, who could compete with Wrex evenly in a fight. She's also more powerful than long-term Ardak Yakshis, who are essentially sex vampires who grow biotically stronger with every kill.
Each encounter gives her strength. The effect is narcotic.
There is no situation in any of the games where she's taken advantage of or defeated, except for her loyalty mission in 2, where Shepard steps in so she could be killed by her daughter. So how would the fight go for Samara? One-on-one medium range, I don't see any character beating Samara in a fight. Like many others, if lined up, she could be taken out at range by snipers. She could also be ambushed or outplayed by the sneaky or intelligent characters. However, she's been shown to have crazy strong barriers, and no doubt in a combat situation, they would be up. Like Jack, the raw power would be overwhelming, however, Samara is more subtle. Years of tracking and hunting down her targets make her a master tracker and able to employ tactics that don't involve smashing things. Yes, Nihilus wasn't captured, but that was due to her code, and in this particular situation, without innocents around and her code dictating she kill or be killed, she would not hesitate to unleash. She's highly intelligent. I see her most difficult fight being against Wrex, who would stand up to the punishment she can deliver with his 3 forms of defenses. Someone like Ash, James or Zaeed could concussive round her barriers to try to take them down and then unload mags since she has no real armor. However, it's shown on multiple occasions that regular Asari need more than one concussive round or warp to lose barriers, and she's no ordinary Asari. In Mass Effect 3, we see regular Asari soldiers holding a point with barriers against explosives. Liara mentions after she sees a fight with another biotic that barriers are important.
But her barriers needed practice. Practice I'm afraid she won't be getting.
So I don't see her, Jack, Miranda, and definitely not Jacob winning against Samara. One trump card would be Thane and Kasumi. Could Kasumi ambush Samara during an opportune moment and take out the most powerful contender? Probably not, as Kasumi wouldn't put herself at risk like that. It's shown that she'd rather avoid those kinds of fights and only strike when it's a sure thing. Could Thane assassinate Samara? Possibly, if he could stay at extreme range or get up close. Even so, Samara has defeated similar tactics before in her youth. The final verdict? We'll need to circle back to this. Liara, like Tali, is going to be a short one for me. Liara is a powerful biotic but very young for an Asari. Although she's shown to have extreme talent, she's still only talented for her age. Compared to Jack and Samara, she's quite a bit outclassed. Yes, she can detonate her own combos in game, but any biotic in theory can. That's all she has as well. She's a scientist, not a soldier. As much as we love her, she would struggle against seasoned warriors. Even Zaeed, who would probably be dispatched by Samara, has had experience taking out Asari before and would be able to handle Liara. In the Shadow Broker's Lair DLC, she's shown to get her hands dirty and be able to get a hit on an Asari Spectre and best her a few times, but Samara and Jack are stronger than this Spectre. Liara is powerful, but not the most powerful. She's intelligent, but lacks experience. She has the Shadow Broker's connections, but how much will information serve her? She might be able to avoid being surprised, but I don't see a situation where she ever wins. The final verdict, sadly, Liara is killed in action. Thane is a Drell assassin trained from birth to be a lethal Hanar weapon. He's potentially the most skilled assassin in the galaxy. This is shown on multiple occasions and written about in multiple sources. He essentially stops Kaidan while crippled with a debilitating disease that's not long from killing him. During his recruitment, you're chasing his ghost, one that's leading you and your squad to a target he wants you to distract. During that time, he saves innocents and takes out bad guys without once revealing himself. He then eliminates his targets promptly with just his hands. Thane is also a biotic, able to supplement his own shields with barriers and throw around enemies. He can use his small arms up close or snipers at range. He's shown to be effective with both. Probably the only contender that would have no trouble surviving against the Krogans in melee range. He also uses shredder ammo to take out organics with great effect. This setting, a battle to the death, is where Thane thrives, and this cannot be understated. So how would the fight go for Thane Krios? Thane is a master assassin. One-on-one, many of Shepard's crew would have ways of taking him out, but Thane would not let them have a fight on their terms. He has highly trained situational awareness and has been shown to use tactics such as hit and run, ambush, sniper nests, and even poisoning targets' drinks.
Where will you be?
The darkest corner with the best view.
This isn't a battle in a tiny arena. Thane would have opportunities to stalk his prey and use tactics such as these, in which case there isn't a single target on the list that could elude him. However, his skills are that of assessing a target, their weaknesses and skills, and using time and skill to take them down. In a situation where he's against multiple highly unique and powerful opponents, some the best in the galaxy in their own right, he would be at a disadvantage. No doubt he could take out a target of his choosing, but would he survive until the end? If he chose to take out a top contender like Wrex for example, he may be able to, but then he might be injured in the process. Remember, he hits and runs and falls back to lick his wounds if any. In a war of attrition, there simply might be too many powerful opponents. It's doubtful that someone tricky like Kasumi would get the better of him, nor someone smart enough to set up a trap for him. The final verdict, we'll need to circle back to this. Miranda Lawson is a human who was genetically created to be perfect, and in many ways, she is. She can crush an Atlas mech with her biotics and shoot its head off at 100 yards or even overload its circuits. She's also a talented leader, shown by having the best outcome when chosen to lead teams during the suicide mission, as well as her passives being team-focused, buffing the whole squad. She's also a tactical genius and shown to be extremely intelligent. She survives an ambush by Kaidan, who's meant to be the anti-Shepard, if you inform her that he's around. By mentioning him, she'll take steps to counter him, meaning that given the intelligence, which the rules state she will have, she's able to employ countermeasures to any opponent. She can handle any defenses given she has access to both warp and overload, and with her team buffs, she's often said to be the best crewmate to bring with you. That aside, like Kaidan, she's a jack of all trades and master of none. There are those better with weapons like Garrus, there are those that take more punishment like the Krogan, and there are those that are more powerful biotically like Samara, shown in how she fails to keep a barrier up during the suicide mission. There are those who are better tactically like Thane, and so on. Also keep in mind that Kaidan still injures her when she's prepared. So how does the fight go for Miranda? Let's not beat around the ass. Not so well. she would be able to hold out, maybe even take a few crewmates down. She's highly intelligent after all and has the abilities to handle any situation. However, she's against the best in the galaxy. I'm not sure how she survives against Thane, Jack, Samara, or Wrex, for example. She also might be put in a situation where quick thinking and adaptability don't matter. Raw power could just win. Or maybe she's put in a situation where she can't overcome it, like Edie locking her in a room or Garrus sniping her from afar. It's shown during his recruitment mission that Miranda really didn't have any suggestion how to take on Garrus. He could have easily sniped her as soon as she got off the taxi. Miranda does have shields and barriers, but her armor is light at best, and her sexuality would not give her an edge in this situation.
It turns out there is one thing primitives are good at.
The final verdict is, Miranda is killed in action. Legion is a specialized Geth platform made for communicating with organics. It's inhabited by over 1,000 Geth platforms versus the usual roughly 100. Over time, Legion has been shown to recognize itself as an individual, multiple occasions showing irrational thought, which is an organic trait. He does have the ability to adapt and understand human tactics. He favors a powerful Geth sniper rifle as well as using tech abilities to supplement. Like all Geth, he has powerful kinetic shielding and also has pieces of N7 armor, making him not so easy to take down in theory, because this is shown to not be the case in multiple cutscenes, so many that you have to take it into consideration. For example, during his recruitment, he's knocked out by a husk, an enemy that no one on this list would have trouble with. So in some ways he's unique, but in others he's just a basic Geth. With that being said, let's assume he's more survivable, and let's assume he has robotic precision with rifles, making him deadly at range.
Understood.
Gunfire. Whoever that was, they're a good shot.
He's also able to speak to machines, making him able to hack doors, send drones, hack robotics, and set traps. So how would the fight go for Legion? He would have to employ similar tactics to Garrus, setting up a nest and defending it well. His one major advantage is that Kasumi and other tricky or sneaky opponents would have a difficult time getting the jump on him. Though Geth know the theory, they're still relative children, wanting only to live, learn and grow. Against more experienced opponents, he will be outplayed. Diversion tactics would be especially effective. The decoy ability from Edie, for example. He's also very vulnerable to tech abilities and hacking, so most opponents on this list would have some way of dealing with him. Legion is more or less countered by both Edie and Tali, given they don't get ambushed. How could he last against someone that could hack him? That being said, not being organic also has its advantages. He doesn't need to sleep, eat or rest. He's able to outlast all opponents and could camp better than anyone, able to stay hidden until Jacob walks around the corner, Legion revealing himself to kill steal from the rest, and with that kill, isn't Legion the real winner? However, being revealed, he would most likely be overwhelmed by power from a biotic, hacked, overloaded, or more. The final verdict is, Legion is killed in action. Zaeed Masani is a co-founder of the Blue Suns and is a highly skilled bounty hunter and mercenary.
Bounty hunters aren't dependable.
You're not hiring the right ones.
He's extremely wise and has fought almost every adversary around, including Krogan and Asari commandos.
Pried that off the Krogan warlord, Kazak. Used to run the Blood Pack out of Omega about 17 years ago. Goaded Kazak into one-on-one combat. Took out his legs, grabbed his gun, and killed every Blood Pack bastard in the room.
He's a soldier with the reflexes and combat skills to boot. He has concussive shot for barriers, disruptor ammo for shields, and inferno grenades for armor. His passive ability in ME2 shows that he is talented with weapons as he gets crazy weapon boosts. He has heavy armor, uses heavy weapons, and does what he needs to do to get the job done, even burning down whole factories. At medium to long range, he's extremely deadly, using snipers and assault rifles to lethal effect. During the Citadel DLC, he's shown to enjoy setting traps alongside Garrus. So, how would the fight go for Zaeed? He's talented, skilled, and has a tool for every form of protection. There's no doubt he's a lethal opponent. It's unlikely that most other humans could stand up to him if it was a 1 versus 1 situation, except for maybe Jack and Miranda. However, he isn't invincible. In every unique mission you have with him, he has the potential of dying. His group of mercs take him out in Mass Effect 3, whereas that same group would have been pie for someone like Grunt or another pure combat soldier. He's combat wise as shown during the Mass Effect 2 loyalty mission, but he isn't next level intelligent like Mordin. he would likely be outplayed by other squad mates on this list. Even so, the raw power of some would simply be too much. How does he stand up to being thrown around like a doll? The way Zaeed wins is employing dirty tactics or hunkering down like Garrus and Legion, and that would only serve him until he's caught by someone who does it better. He would no doubt take someone with him, but the final verdict is Zaeed will be killed in action. Javik is the last Prothean, awakened by the crew in order to learn more about the Reapers. What they found was the Avatar of Vengeance, not a scholar or a scientist. A Prothean warrior skilled with assault rifles and employing powerful biotic abilities. Uniquely, he has a Dark Channel ability which damages enemies over time and spreads. This is effective against hordes of Reaper forces, but not highly talented individuals. He can also use lift grenades and throw enemies around with biotics. He has the typical defenses you expect from a Vanguard, however none of these are notable compared to the others he's facing. We have very little information on him since he was a DLC during the events of the third game and is intentionally a mystery, but we can establish enough. So, how does the fight go for the Avatar of Vengeance? Like hinted at before, Javik is good against fighting hordes of Reaper forces, but against highly talented or intelligent individuals, he lacks the tools. He has the ability to read genetic imprints on objects, making him good at surveillance or finding targets, but he has no way of getting through heavy defenses. Wrex and Grunt would absolutely decimate him given a fair fight. Javik is willing to do what it takes to win, but he doesn't have the intelligence or tactical genius to win against those who do. Nor was he trained to. He was born in a war against an overwhelming horde. Even so, I don't think he could take down many on this list besides Jacob. The final verdict is, we brought him back just to kill him off. He is killed in action. There's nothing I can say about James Vega that hasn't already been said about other human soldiers, but I'll try.
Never used humans myself. Disgusting.
He uses an assault rifle to great effect. He has heavy armor supplemented by fortification. In fact, in Mass Effect 3, he has the highest health and shields. He has frag grenades, incendiary ammo, and carnage. Overall very effective against armor. But that's it. He struggles against barriers and struggles even more against shields. He functions in close to medium range settings where there is a lot of competition. James is a talented soldier, but he's against some monsters, and getting up close to Wrex or staying at medium range to Samara is a death sentence. He isn't particularly intelligent, loco, or wise, or has any sneaky skills. If this was a pull-up or cooking competition, things would be different, but let me just call this now. The final verdict is, James is killed in action.
Why won't you die?
EDI is a ship's AI unshackled. In combat she uses a mobile platform, so when discussing who would win in a Hunger Games situation, we have to assume we mean the mobile platform, because if your squad were forced to fight the Normandy, well, not sure how that would go for them. EDI's platform has the ability to deploy decoys, overload shields, incinerate armor, and supplement her own shields with a defense matrix. In fact, she's surprisingly tanky. All of her passives increase health and shields. It makes sense, as even Shepard was not able to take the platform down when it was escaping Mars. EDI only uses light weapons like pistols and submachine guns, so she would struggle against some opponents, but EDI is potentially the most dangerous when it comes to intelligence. She was made to be a tactical liaison to Shepard, helping him complete his mission, and frankly, it's unlikely he would have without her help. So how would the fight go for EDI? This is another extremely difficult one to analyze. In a straight up fight, many opponents would beat her. For example, most biotics would have the edge, as she has no direct way of getting through barriers. Submachine guns will eventually, and her shields may just hold out long enough, but it's unlikely. Her advantage would be the fact that she's, well, EDI. she can basically open any door, assess any situation, come up with solutions and alternatives. On the battlefield, she could play her enemies like chess pieces. Would that be enough? Would sabotaging weapons or hacking the field leave her as the last one standing? It's extremely hard to say. It would all come down to if she could be found and eliminated. If the battle starts quickly, someone like Zaeed could take her out, or a snap overload could disable the platform, though it's doubtful one would be enough to take her shields down completely. I see her taking down key targets fast. She would no doubt go after Legion first in order to hack and gain an ally, leaving the weaker Jacobs for last. However, long term, I think she would be clipped with something, and intelligence is only useful if you can physically employ the tactics. There won't be a Shepard around to connect her to panels and computers. She is on her own. The final verdict is, EDI's platform is killed in action. Now comes the time we need to pull the car around and circle back to those we couldn't give a deathly verdict. There were 4 standouts that needed further analysis, namely Wrex, Garrus, Samara, and Thane. All of these being the best at what they do. Wrex being the hardest to kill, Garrus being the most tactical, Samara being the most powerful, and Thane being the most skilled. Realistically, I should end the video here and say it could be any one of these 4 because the reality is there is just so many variables that you can't account for that it really could be any of them given different situations. But that wouldn't sate your ravenous appetites, would it? You want blood. You want to troll the comments with your many reasons why my choice is wrong and how your knowledge is greater and that I'm not a so-called expert. Who am I to deny you that? Well, let's get started. First, I think we can establish who dies most often out of this bunch. I'm gonna have to say Garrus. He has the potential to win, don't get me wrong, but there are holes in his defenses and against multiple talented opponents, he would be taken out more often than the other 3. In fact, if you only pitted these 4 against each other, I would say Garrus is the weakest. He does one thing well but can't stand up to the rest of these 3, so let's rule him out right now. Sorry Garrus fans. Next, who is the most survivable? This hands down goes to Wrex. Looking at all the ways these 3 can die, they've all experienced some kind of cinematic letdown. Samara being taken out by practically a single blast from her daughter, Thane's defensives being cut through by Kaidan's sword, Wrex being shot to the floor then quad tapped by Ash, so let's just put those aside. Gameplay and lore-wise, overall Wrex always comes out on top in this department. He has shields over barriers, over heavy armor, over a high health pool with regeneration, alongside stim packs. Samara has great barriers so she comes second and Thane last. Then we have raw power. Samara has it in this category. She can hurl things around like they're made of nothing. She can create a singularity inside of an undefended opponent's body. She's a powerhouse and well equipped with an assault rifle, so she has no rival in this area. Wrex is a close second, as being smacked around by him is lethal and nothing can stand up to a Krogan shotgun close up. Thane being last. Yes, he does get access to snipers and can put out biotics as well, but he has more precision than raw power. Last, who is the most skilled in this kind of situation? Here's the kicker, they all have merit. Thane is a master assassin and has lived for this kind of work. However, he isn't trained to take on multiple extreme threat targets at one time. Samara has hunted enemies in cat and mouse situations before and has lived a long life full of destruction. The same can be said about Wrex, except he has also risen to the top of a society that values strength above all else. So given these 3 points, we can eliminate Thane. It feels almost wrong to do so, as it seems like he would be perfect for this, but like I mentioned, he would have to fall back to lick wounds in many cases, and I doubt he could keep it up long term. And that's even putting aside his Keppel syndrome, which makes extended fighting difficult. So the final fight would be between Samara and Wrex, the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. A lot of you knew it would come to this. Either way, I'm annoying somebody, so let's finish off this battle royale. If we hadn't set these rules, the clear favorite would be Samara. Knowing what we know about biotics, it would just make her absolutely unstoppable unless attacked by multiple skilled opponents at once. However, this isn't the case. We're taking gameplay into account, and gameplay-wise, if we were to somehow mod the game to pit Wrex versus Samara, she wouldn't have a chance. What is the middle ground though? What is the most realistic interpretation? After weighing everything up, I have to say that Wrex wins more often than not. He survives almost every surprise attack, whereas Samara doesn't. He survives drawn-out fights, survives a Hunger Games situation with no food and water. Hell, his species is known to drop into inhospitable worlds just to see how long they can survive. He has strong defenses, including regenerating from injuries. Even if a strong biotic could throw him around, he can and will survive. And all he would need is to get one clean shot off through the defenses to succeed. Perhaps some would make temporary alliances to take down the high threat squad mates, which would be Wrex. But that's a social variable we can't account for. During the Citadel DLC, all your squad which join you for the fight constantly brag about having Wrex on the squad, that he is their trump card. We have a Krogan, they say. Can you really argue with the sentiment of your whole squad?
They still got the Krogan, so I kill them. Someone can try.
With that being said, the battle goes to Urdnot Wrex. So how did you do? Who did you pick? Do you agree with me, disagree? Let me know below. I played through the Mass Effect Trilogy over 10 times each, but this was the hardest situation I could think of. There really isn't a right answer. If you appreciate this content, help me get to that 250k and put yourself in the running to win the legendary cash. Until next time, ciao friends.